Should investing in Section 8 rental property be part of your real estate strategy this year? That's exactly what this video is going to cover. By the time we're finished, you'll have a really good understanding of what Section 8 rental investing is, if you should do it, the pros and cons, and my thoughts on it as well. And also, if you stick with me to the end, I will share an awesome resource with you that will help you pinpoint exactly what rents can be for Section 8 properties all across the country by zip code. So make sure to stick around to the end, and I'll be sure to share that. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Dustin Boudreau. I currently own over 100 rental properties, and several of them are Section 8 rentals. So I thought it'd be a good idea to make a video on my thoughts about it, exactly what it is, and give you some ideas if you should go this route for your first rental property or your next rental property. And so what I'll do is I'll jump into a little slide deck I prepared and we'll get straight to it. So let's talk about what is Section 8. We'll start here. It is a government program that is designed to help low-income families afford housing, in this case, rental properties. And so it is overseen by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, aka HUD is the acronym here. You may have heard of HUD before. It's the organization that funds money for this whole program. And the way that works, it is overseen by HUD, but on the local levels in your communities where your rental properties are, that is ran by the local public housing agency, or PHA is another acronym that we will use. And then as far as Section 8 is concerned, from the tenants, it is a voucher-based program that will either cover all of the rental income that is needed to rent a place or most of it, 70% and higher. There's a lot of things that go into this from the tenant's perspective. So they'll have to provide how much money they make, their assets, what their family situation is, how many people are in the home, and this will dictate how much money they qualify for, what size the home can be, and all of the particulars there. And so how it works, high level, just from the program, HUD funds PHA, which is the PHA will actually give the funds once approval to the tenants in your area where they might rent your property. Tenant gets approved, as I just mentioned, they'll get a voucher that'll show exactly how much money they qualify for. Sometimes it'll have the bedroom count as well, but more times than not, it'll have how much rent they qualify for. So the process, this is the high level look of what happens from basically start to finish when a tenant has interest in renting a property that is on Section 8. So potential tenant will say they have a Section 8 voucher. This will show you how much it's for, bedroom count, all of that stuff typically, as I just mentioned. They'll check availability for what size home is needed. First thing you want to do is just verify that you have what they're looking for. So if this is your first rental property, it'll be very easy to see if they meet what you're looking for or what they need. And if you have several different properties as a real estate investor, you probably have a higher likelihood if you have some vacancy to fit their needs if you're looking to go the Section 8 route. And then so once you identify they have Section 8 or they let you know that you have the available property that they're looking for, the next step will apply to Section 8 tenants and really anyone that's looking for a rental. So they will apply to make sure that they're qualified to rent the property. And if approved, cue all the paperwork. One of the downsides to using Section 8 is there's a ton of paperwork and process involved in this. And so once the paperwork is all signed and all the particulars are taken care of, there's one more thing that'll happen. The tenant and the landlord, in this case you, the investor, will sign a tenancy approval packet and submit that to Section 8. And then that is when the rental will be inspected. This is also another part of the process that can be pretty timely and pretty particular. So they are going through basically with a checklist each room in a house, if it meets the standards of HUD guidelines, what needs to be done to pass inspection, or if it passed or failed. I have had a few fail these inspections for simple things like missing something on an outlet cover for an outlet in a living room or something like that. And so after that inspection, the inspector will provide to either you or your property manager a list and what all was inspected, what passed, and what did not pass. And so if it failed, you simply just have to go back and make adjustments and fix what did not pass and then schedule another inspection so they can get out there and make sure everything is good before the tenant moves in. And then once all of those things happen, you will sign a lease. Typically, Section 8 will want to sign a lease for at least a year. And then once you, as the investor, sign it, the tenant signs it, you have a live lease. You will also submit a copy of that to Section 8 and PHA. Just a quick note on the rent payments for a Section 8 property. So the max that you can charge is only what Section 8 approves. Give an example. So let's say tenant wants to rent one of your 3-bedroom homes for $1,500 a month, and that is what Section 8 approves them for. And let's also hypothetically say your 3-bedroom home rents for $1,800 a month. Sometimes tenants will ask, hey, I have this voucher for $1,500. Can I pay you the difference of the $300 a month to make the total rent you're wanting to collect $1,800 a month? That is a big no-no for Section 8. You only can charge the maximum of what Section 8 approves that rental to be for the tenant. Now, here's an example of what you could do. So let's say, same example, 3-bedroom home, you want to rent it for $1,500 a month. Section 8 gave the tenant a voucher for $1,400 a month, so they don't fund 100% of the rent. The tenant could pay you the extra $100 to make the total $1,500, which you're asking. So really high level, simple to understand. Whatever Section 8 approves the tenant for the total rent that can be charged, you cannot accept any rent from the tenant or go higher than that. If they get a voucher that does not cover it 100%, they can use the voucher and then pay you the difference to make up the total of what Section 8 approved them for. Here's a pro tip. When we're talking about Section 8 or just a rental property you're looking to buy in general, don't force it. I know it can be very appealing to say, hey, I'm going to get this guaranteed money every month. I want to buy this rental and get in it so I can be an investor or add to my portfolio. Just remember, it still has to be a good deal. It still needs to cash flow and make sense from a numbers perspective. So you want to spend time really understanding that before you decide to jump in, put a tenant, get some government money, and just say it for the sake of having a rental. It still needs to make good investment sense. And so if you are new or trying to understand what makes a good rental, where can I find these numbers, how can I put this all together to see if it works, just check the link in the description. I have my free real estate investment calculator where I have a video that I go along with where you pull these numbers from, how to decide if a property cash flows, what you can pay for it, all of those things that you can do in just a couple minutes. So again, link in the description if you're needing some help with that. It's completely free and you can get it there. And so let's go on to the pros and cons of working with a Section 8 rental. The pros are it's guaranteed income. Once you jump through all the hoops, do all the paperwork, and all of the things that need to happen where you get to the finish line, the PHA and Section 8, they will actually wire or direct deposit the rent into your bank account every month. So it's not a situation where they give it to the tenants and the tenant pays you. They pay you directly, which is very appealing because you get rent on the first, it won't be late, and you can count on that to be there. And if you know anything about the government, if the government is running low on money, they just print more, right? That's why we see crazy inflation. So you don't have to worry about them being low on funds. Another pro, lower vacancy rates. So when somebody moves into a Section 8 rental, especially if it's a 2-3+ bedroom home, they usually will stay for a long time because Section 8 has gotten them set up. They approved it. They like where they live, and they usually want to stay put for a long time. So that's really good for your vacancy rates. And then also, many markets across the country, there's a waiting list for Section 8 because there's not a ton of landlords that allow this. And again, this is very market specific, but Section 8 understands this. And so they allow you to set rental rates at a higher end of the fair market value. That way it's more appealing for landlords and investors to open up these properties to these tenants to have a place to live, which is a big pro. And then also, again, it's high demand. There's a lot of people that are seeking out Section 8 and help for rental rates, especially in this environment where things are crazy high cost, inflation's through the roof, rental rates continue to climb. It's very expensive to buy a home. So high demand is a good thing for you as an investor. Let's talk about the cons on the other side of that coin so you get a really good picture of both here. It's the government. I almost just left this in all caps and just kept it there. If you've had any experience working with the government, it is typically not a pleasant one and very inefficient and a very long, timely process. That is no different most of the time dealing here with Section 8. It's not as unpleasant as going to a busy DMV. It's just takes a lot longer than it should, and there's a lot of inefficiencies because it's the government. So something to keep in mind when you're looking to get approved with them. Lots of paperwork and red tape, as I mentioned. So you have a lot of paperwork on the front end. Then you have to have all of these things checked out through signing a lease, and then even continued maintenance as these renewals happen and the tenant stays into the property. Properties inspections are required by HUD. So there's really a couple of inspections that happen. The initial one that I talked about earlier. So before the tenant moves in, they will go in and inspect your property and give it a pass or a fail, and you'll have to keep getting it re-inspected until it passes. And then every year, HUD has to go inspect your property that the tenant is there. And so they can have some pretty stringent guidelines and things that they require that you have to continue adhering to if you want to get Section 8 money and keep the tenant in your property. So just something to be aware of as far as inspections. And then probably the biggest red flag here on the cons is if you have to evict a tenant, it can be a lot more difficult under the HUD guidelines. There's a lot of things you have to check and make sure you follow all of these rules and make sure that their interests are represented properly and you're going through the process as they want you to do it. So also something to be very mindful of and know it before you go into this. And then as we wrap up, I'll give you my thoughts on Section 8. As I mentioned at the top of this video, I have several properties that are on Section 8. And my thoughts are if it's done right, it is worth it. And here's what I mean by done right. You really need to take the time on the front end to screen for tenants to make sure you're putting the right people in your properties. It can be appealing to say somebody has a Section 8 voucher for X amount of dollars, and it could even be higher than what you were asking for in your rent. So you're like, hey, I can capture some more cash flow here and profitability. But the big mistake you will make is if you don't take the time to source the right tenant, do the background checks, the credit checks, employment checks, rental history, call previous landlords that they rented. That's probably one of the most important pieces there, and figure out how they and ask how they treated their properties. If you get the wrong tenant in, they can destroy your property. It can take a long time to get them out, and you can end up losing a tremendous amount of money. So what we do, I use a property management company, which I also recommend you doing, especially if you're getting started, just getting started and have a full-time career. This can make things a lot easier on you because they usually have the process and systems in place to do this. But tell your property manager to go through the time to source great tenants, do the background checks, all of those things, and you will be happy that you did, even if your property sits on the market a little bit longer than you probably wanted to. They'll usually stick around for a long time. Once they're approved, you get a great tenant, and they won't tear up your property. So my 2 cents on it, if it's done right, it can be very lucrative and worth it. And lastly, as I promised, if you stuck around to the end, I would give you an epic resource. So this resource will allow you to pick your state and then your city on where Section 8, not where Section 8 is, they're all across the country, but you can dial in by zip code and see what they pay for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom property and what the rates are. And so that resource is huduser.gov. Now, I will include a link in the description for the actual link because it's a lot longer than huduser.gov. But if you click on the link in the description, it will take you to the specific page where you can pick the state that you're in, you can pick the city that you're in, and it'll bring you to the nice, pretty page of all of your zip codes in your market, and you can see exactly what I was talking about with all of the different bedroom counts. So if you go to just huduser.com, it won't take you to the zip code pages, but link in the description, it will take you right to what I just explained. There you have it. Everything that you need to know about Section 8 rental property investing, and if it's something that you should get involved into. It is a personal decision. Just make sure you understand all the things that you need to. Go in and follow the process, source great tenants, make sure you have the right people in your properties, and it can be a very lucrative thing for you. If you found this video valuable, please like it and consider subscribing to the channel. Each week I cut a new video on rental property investing, especially if you have a day job. So if that is your jam, make sure to tune in next week as we'll have a brand new video for you. And before you run, make sure to check out the video that is on the screen somewhere here. Appreciate you watching. This video is a wrap. I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.